Hello everyone, here's how to actually grow on YouTube, the things you need to know. I'm really excited about today's stream because when it comes to YouTube, there's a ton of misinformation. There's a lot of things that can happen when it comes to going live. And so I want to make sure that we talk about a lot of them today. And so this is going to be a jam-packed session. We're going to have timestamps in the description. There's so much we're going to cover today. But I want to first set the tone and ask you, if you're watching live or in the replay, where are you coming from? Where are you in your YouTube journey? I'd love to know because they're really important indicators from when you watch the stream, and hopefully you feel afterward that, this isn't just theory. This is things that are repeatable, things that I've been able to do in my personal career. And if you're just joining me for the first time, you may wonder, who am I? I'm Andrew Can, so I'm a YouTube strategist and educator and filmmaker. I've been doing this for over 13 years. I am most known for growing the TubeBuddy YouTube channel from 6,000 to over 500,000 subscribers. And so I've been doing this for a long time, and I've grown channels even larger than TubeBuddy. Unfortunately, those are under NDA, but the results speak for themselves, and people who know. So I'm really excited to go ahead and just dive really deep here. Now, you may notice, if you are joining us for the first time or not, we have something new here, and that is the published beats perfect. So I'm going to give some people some time here, and I want to go ahead and show off our brand new line. This was inspired by you who watched. And so one other thing I will say is that I had some questions in particular with, how can I support you? What are some things you're working on? And this is the brand new line. So it's called Published Beats Perfect. It's just a friendly reminder that the best video you make, and this is going to be a mindset we have for this entire stream, is a video that's published. So a good video needs to be a published video. A great video is only great when it is published. So I'll go ahead and put that in chat, have it in the description down below. But it's really one of those things that understanding that mindset is going to be a huge factor into everything that we do in this stream here today. So I want to go ahead and set some expectations. And I want to talk about some of the things, that I see are common mistakes, no matter where I'm watching from or whatever channel I'm looking at. And one of the things I keep seeing is we as creators, we often build first without checking or doing research. And look, we're artists. We want to create. We want to tell our stories. But a lot of the times, what I've noticed in my career, and I've been guilty of this too, make no mistake, I have learned a lot of lessons, and you're seeing the end of all of the lessons I've learned. And one of the biggest things that I made a mistake of doing is not checking if anyone is interested in the topics I want to make videos of. Now, every now and then, you can just hit it out of the park and you can just nail it, right? And you can have a sense that, hey, I have this idea, maybe there's some interest here, maybe there isn't, right? And that's an important thing to talk about. And sometimes your gut instinct is very important to just really think about it. And if you're wondering, hey, you talk about not going in blind, what are some ways that I could actually do some research? I'm so glad you asked. And so one of the best ways that you can get started here, and I know my audience has heard me talk about this to death, but it is important, and it is the YouTube Trends tab, because what it does is it helps you better understand what audiences are searching for. You can get a better understanding of how things work. And I'm going to show you some real examples of how I've come up with ideas, right? How to create an ad thumbnail in a YouTube video. So they not only want to know how to create, but how to add it on a YouTube video, right? I have creation, but I actually don't know if I've personally covered how to add YouTube thumbnails to videos. I've talked more recently about it, maybe with my A/B testing video, but it's always a reminder that when you're doing content, look at what your audience is looking for, and you can go deeper. If I click through here, it'll show me this is a medium interest topic for my audience, which means some of my viewers have been watching videos about this topic and they've been wondering about it. So I haven't done and covered this, but it's one of those situations where it would make a lot of sense. And the next tool I'm going to talk about is the inspiration tab, which does use some AI from YouTube and Google. So I just want to make sure that I flag that, but it'll let you, go deeper and come up with even more ideas. And these ideas are one thing I want to talk about, right? This is also a free tool, and it's working as we are discussing here. And it says, master the mobile upload, how to properly add thumbnails via YouTube Studio. So this is a mobile focused one. Stop guessing, use heat maps to fix your low performance YouTube thumbnails. So it gives you different ways to look at it. I'm going to hit back and go back to this area. But I want to talk about a mistake I definitely keep seeing. And I want to know if you're watching, is this something you've fallen? And it is misusing the tools. And it's not on purpose. I look, when I was first learning TubeBuddy, I learned some things directly from the developers that were helpful, and I was able to teach the community how not to do this. And that's something I'm passionate about. I don't believe knowledge is going to be that different to, and it should also be shared. I don't think that you should gatekeep. So here's what I would tell you. A lot of times tools show interest in a topic. But I've seen creators take that interest. So in this case, where it is, how to create an ad thumbnail in YouTube video, they would make that exact phrase, how to create an ad thumbnail in YouTube video, the title. And that's not what these tools are designed for and what you should be doing, right? So what I would tell you is when you're looking up research, that is what your audience is searching for. It is still up to you and I as creatives to make it compelling. Why would they want to click through? We know there's interest in how to create and add thumbnails in YouTube videos, but it's up to us to make that video compelling, right? So a couple of ways I could do this. How to create and add thumbnails to your YouTube videos for free. Free is a huge motivator to a lot of people. Look, I know what it's like to have no money. I've been broke in my life. And I know the importance of having that difference in offering that angle of affordability. There's also time saved, right? Maybe they have the money, but they're looking for something done quick. Sometimes people like both. If it can be done quick, well, and free, that is kind of that mythic combo. Usually people say pick two. So there could be some options there. But if I call it exactly what people are searching for, it's not going to compel them to click. It might get impressions. And if you don't know what an impression is just showing. I see we are getting some comments, and I want to take a moment to, answer it. But one thing I would say is, I'm seeing from Kathy Fit, who says that mine looks a little different than hers does. And that's pretty normal, whether it's the inspiration or trends tab. If you're watching this in the future, YouTube is always doing some updates. Some of it might be in beta. So if you're watching this and it looks different, it might change slightly, but the fundamentals I'm talking about here still do matter. And I see this, I asked what are some big mistakes, and from Beanie, my biggest mistake was not factoring structure, an organization, underrated, not spoken about topic. Structure and organization is important. I often say when it comes to different YouTube videos, how you structure your not only creation process, but just everything you do really can make a difference in the satisfaction of not only the audience watching, but you, the creator, right? And like having an organized structure to how you upload, what you upload, that can be the difference of a successful channel and a channel that's struggling to find out what it's really trying to do. Now, another thing I've seen when it comes to, one thing I would say is common is that I've talked to so many creators. Well, I would love to make a video on this topic, but X person has already made a video, or there's a lot of people who already cover a similar topic. The reality is that your ability to show off a topic, to talk about a subject, is going to make all the difference. I love the differences of opinion from multiple creatives. The reality is it takes people multiple times hearing a thing before they act, right? And they take action. When you're learning something, it's repetition and relevancy in the correct way that matter, right? So if you're wondering, we're talking about all these different things. We're talking how do you actually grow? You can't let that fear of somebody else has already talked about this topic. Now, that does not mean you copy their video. That is not what I'm saying. If you steal, if you copy, that is not the right way to handle it. But your opinion, your angle, how you approach it is going to be different, right? I see we have Beanie Draws in the chat, and he draws dinosaurs a lot. But a lot of other people draw dinosaurs. So if Beanie was like, well, somebody's already drawn it, his art would never see the light of day. Your voice matters here, and that would be how it can go when it comes to content creation. Don't let the idea that somebody who's already talked about a topic really stop you from talking about it, because the way you talk about it might be different, or there might be more information from when those videos were published. That happens all the time. So don't ever feel because other people have talked about it that you can't. Consider this permission. And, one thing I will tell you is we talked about that real example of what my audience is looking for and how I could use it. But I would love to hear what your audiences are looking for and how you're considering things. And of course, if you have a question, you can always ask it with #question. We take all of them really serious, but I want to make sure that, if you're watching live, we go live every Thursday. Thank you, Beanie, Kathy, and a bunch of others I see here for joining us. I do appreciate your time. And so I do also want to talk about something that I see a lot of people say. When you're trying to grow on YouTube, people are like, SEO is dead. It is, don't trust anyone who recommends SEO. And the problem with that is SEO is commonly misunderstood. If you don't know what SEO is, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And what a lot of people focus on is the engine part of that, the algorithmic part of that. But they forget who is searching. Who is the first letter? Search. People are searching. Real humans are the ones typing these things in. And with AI, it's only gotten a little different. Now it's generative engine optimization because people talk to the AI. That's why Google included Gemini in search, because people like talking to it. It feels more personable. So the thing is, SEO has always been about conversations your audience is looking up and is interested in. It's up to us as creatives to find a way to plug in brilliantly and in a way that makes sense and gets their interest. This topic I'm talking about in the stream today is something I've been asked time and time again. How do you actually grow on YouTube? These are all fundamentals, but the reality is, in order to become a star at anything, every winner is once a beginner. That's something I truly believe in. And you got to nail those fundamental things before you go on to the next level. I see we have some more people joining us. Welcome, Mac Movement. Welcome, Geology Dude. Always great to see some more folks in the chat. So as we are continuing on, what you're going to learn is that YouTube says wherever algorithm fits, replace it with the word audience. What does that mean? So many people, similar to SEO, they focus on the engine, but they don't focus on the searchers. Focus on the people you're trying to reach. Now, one I think is super important is evolving with the times. Now, historically, how can you see how people are enjoying it? How can you see, let's say you found a topic you're really passionate about, you did some research, and you see, hey, people are interested in this. I think I got a pretty compelling title. I think I got a compelling thumbnail. What next? Couple of things. One, consider joining some communities. Get some feedback. You'd be surprised some of the things we miss as creators because we're just a little bit too close. I know Beanie and Kathy are in chat, are accountability partners. They hold each other accountable, they learn with one another, and they grow, right? Well, we have the Can Do creator community, which is where this new merch came from. It's where all the stuff I do is at, is kdcc.social. And in fact, technically, we're sponsoring this stream. My own company is sponsoring myself. So I don't know if I need to put a sponsored disclosure, but there you go. And I say all that to say is that a community can help you get out of your own personal silo and get opinions from people like in our community, which have done this, have grown channels. And that is a huge differentiator. So many people play YouTube like it's a single player game, and the people they're competing with have teams of creatives behind it to make the experience amazing. So don't compare your solo star to a team where all you see is one person in front of the camera and you don't see the 7 behind it. So I say that to say, when it comes to YouTube and when it comes to when you're making stuff, don't do it alone. And second, what are the metrics that matter? It used to be that YouTube said the most important metric is watch time, but that's actually changed more recently. I will tell you, and this comes from the YouTube Creator Liaison, and it comes from YouTube themselves, and they said that viewer satisfaction is what's most important. I'm going to ask you, whether you're watching live or in the replay, what is viewer satisfaction? What does that mean to you? What do you think of when you hear that term? Because when I think of it, I had my own thoughts, but I'm always curious because a lot of people have different opinions on what it means. And I know people want YouTube to just come out flat and say it, but I know they're probably protective of it because they don't want to, give too much. But I love Threads. If you are brand new here, you're going to hear me talk about Threads a lot. But we have this from Renee Ritchie, who I asked him a question about satisfaction because I think it's a little hard for a lot of creators, myself included, to grasp, right? So he said originally YouTube focused on click-through rate, but people would click bait. YouTube then, let me actually change this. So originally YouTube focused on click-through rate, but people would clickbait. YouTube then switched to raw watch time, but realized if people regretted what they watched, their session time might be long, but they might not come back as much, not feel good about the experience. But if they valued what they watched, their session time might be shorter, but they might come back more, feel good about the experience. Not all watch time was created equal. So YouTube invested in satisfaction as the North Star. And this is so important because when it comes to how they're looking at this comes from Renee Ritchie, who's the creator liaison. So satisfaction can feel like this ominous thing. And so what I would tell you is when you are doing these things and you're looking at what does that mean, it's really important that we take a moment to talk about this. So I would say I'm seeing some comments here on what satisfaction is. And I want to just say that a lot of people kind of struggle on it. It's a newer concept. So that's kind of what satisfaction is. And I see people are going to ask what I asked. And what is satisfaction? Well, it's what Renee said. It is the experience they have, and they're not going to tell us that. And this is what Beanie said. How can satisfaction be indicated? They've been holding it close to the chest. What I take it to mean is that not all watch time is created equal. And it's when they watch one thing, do they actually come back to watch more? So I take that as a signal from YouTube themselves. What can grow you is not only do people watch one video from you, but do they watch multiple? Because watch time, as they said, is not created equally. So since watch time isn't created equally, not every viewer experience is created equally. I could spend a lot of time watching a piece of content, but I don't actually like it. So when I say these things, it's very important to have that conversation. And so I think, all these things are important. Now, Beanie answered a little bit earlier for the question, what does satisfaction mean? Does satisfaction mean thumbs up and comment? I think it could play into it, but I think it's time spent and times returning to content. Until YouTube puts out an official answer, that's kind of what I think when it comes to. And this is what Beanie says. No offense, but I think that's kind of ridiculous, especially if they're now trying to imply something based on viewer history. Look, YouTube knows very well viewer and audience retention. So what I would tell you is look at how many pieces of content your viewers are watching and how many sessions, starts, and continuations your content start. I take this as a flag that playlists are more important than ever. Having multiple watch sessions of a creator and also engaging and liking, comment, sharing. They said on multiple different panels at different events that sharing is a huge one. So I think that those are things that can matter. Now, when I think about videos and I'm looking at satisfaction, what are some of those things that I'm aware could definitely harm a viewer from liking it? One of the things I think of is when a video is just too long. You can tell they're padding it to that 8-minute mark for a little extra ads. And it really had no business being that long. That's not a great experience, and I'm sure that's part of that satisfaction thing. Another thing is, don't cut a video short. Just let the content set the length. Let the video be as long as it needs to be, not a second more. And I think that that's important when it comes to the different ways that YouTube looks at things and how you should look at it. Another thing is you should consider what are you doing and how to actually grow. A lot of people don't know this, but the first 30 seconds, and if they do, they don't really sit with it. Those first 30 seconds, how much percentage you have watching past that 30-second mark really matters for long form. Now, shorts are a different beast. Shorts are a great way to get exposure, and you can actually drive from shorts to long form. I've seen it. I know people have debated this for a while, but with the right strategy, with the right attempt, with the right angle, you can absolutely do that. So what I would tell you is when you're working on your hook, a lot of people make this mistake. If you're working on YouTube hooks are visual and they are also auditory. They are audio focused. So visuals and audio matter when it comes to your YouTube hook. If you're just focusing on the audio hook, you're missing a huge component of a video platform. Visuals matter. Having text on captions for shorts can help. Having B-roll, having unique images pop up that really kind of work with what you're saying, all of that matters. In fact, we did that in the live stream a little bit earlier where I showed some of the stuff behind the scenes. I showed that from Renee. So all of these things matter. So one thing we're getting a question at, and this is, I'm assuming, coming around for satisfaction. What if people get bored? If people get bored, YouTube will look at that behavior. Do they come back? YouTube is smart enough to, with watch history now, they might start it on one device and finish it on another. How often are they interacting with that content? Do they ever come back to finish? That is also probably being factored. So watch time matters, yes, but not all watch time is created equal. And sometimes I could watch a movie and end up never wanting to watch another video from it again because I watched the whole thing, but I did not like that movie and I probably will never watch it again. There are also some experiences that I don't need to see it again. Once I got it, I'm good. If you've ever seen a movie where you don't need to see it again, that's experience. Or if you've seen a show only once and you're like, I don't ever want to watch it again, but I'm glad I watched it when I did, that's a unique experience too. Not all of this is for YouTube specifically, right? Like a lot of times we can get into that. And so I would say that you should definitely consider lots of different ways when it comes to, you know, things like that. Now I'm seeing Beanie says it's applying too much guesswork. Beanie's classic thing. You're overthinking it. YouTube gives you a lot of ways that you can see when viewers watch different things. Watch time still matters. They're just flagging not all watch time is equal. Start looking at how many videos people watch one from the other. And they do give us that metric. Beanie, you're looking at this too literally. It's a broader concept, and that's why we have people like me. That's what I'm here to break down. Watch how many they're watching one after the other. Are they coming back? If I'm doing live streams, if I see people like yourself, Beanie, Kathy, all the people here watching who come back, that's a good signal to me as a creative. You're not inferring. You have data points in your analytics. If you don't know where those are, that's a different question. And that's something you could ask. But the reality is satisfaction is just a way to determine if the user actually enjoyed the video they're watching. Don't overthink it too much. That's probably also why they hold that close to the chest, because they know people will overthink. It's the same reason that people overthought tags and kind of ruined that system. YouTube has to be careful here. Sometimes good things can be overthought, good things can be exploited, so understanding and giving drip feed of what has changed can do a lot. Now, I would say, I'm looking at Mac Movement who says, recently made the mistake. I was scared of a 40-minute episode, so only 36 minutes, but sounds like a textbook a bit. I mean, if you're covering everything and you're doing a really solid job in breaking down that advanced topic, look at your retention graph. It can be your best friend here, because what you might learn is what you thought kind of felt textbook had really good retention. Sometimes what you thought might do really well by being longer could do the opposite. Each video has a different way the audience engages with it. That's why YouTube added in analytics compared to other videos of similar length to give us a better understanding. So when it comes to how do I actually grow, look at viewer satisfaction. Do they watch one video and multiple after? So how many other videos do they watch? As creators, are we creating playlists to make it easy for them to watch multiple pieces? You also want to make sure when you're a creator that, look, YouTube has a lot of new updates all the time. You got to stay up. And that kind of goes into something we've built, which is called the can-do method, and it's knowledge. Knowledge is the first one. You need to have up-to-date knowledge. It's super important whenever you're doing anything. And if you're wondering, hey, what is this can-do method he's talking about? Well, it is important to talk about. And it is this. So, knowledge, audience, news, data, optimization. You need to have knowledge, and you need to be up to date in the news. Your audience has their own interests. You need to understand your viewers. Data is helping you make informed decisions, and optimization makes sure you're maximizing your impact. So, when it comes to those things, those are the things you need to take a look at. Now, I see Beanie. Look, there's nothing wrong with overthinking. You said, LO, guilty of overthinking. Nerve spicy unite. And then you explain what you have. And I appreciate the transparency. But look, overthinking is also one of the reasons why having a community of people around you that can help you break it down is super important. And that's why I say these things. So when YouTube says watch time driven, what do they really mean by that? It's not about making long videos. It's about making experiences, having viewers feel certain ways while watching your content. One of the best comments I get is by watching your content, Andrew. I feel like I can actually make content that works. So I would say you got to be really careful whenever you are doing different things, because when you're making lots of content, when you're learning It's very easy to absorb too much, and it's very easy to not know when to disperse new knowledge. The best way to look at it is focus on one improvement factor, video over video. For me, that has been working on audio and visual hooks. And by doing that, I see a lot better performance. And so, what I will say is there are so many different ways that you can know how things are going. And so, I also will say you should not be surprised that when you're experimenting, you might see different results from your audience. Now, I see we have some more people. I see we have Toy Fan who's asking me, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty well. I'm enjoying talking about this. And my next question to you, and this is to Toy Fan and everyone watching, is how often are you actually looking at your YouTube analytics, and do you know where to look? Trust me, YouTube analytics right now is more in depth than ever, and that's incredible, but it's also more options than ever. So how often are you looking, and what are you looking at for terms of improvement? What I would tell you is if you're trying to learn YouTube analytics, start at a singular video first. Look at each video analytics there. And I think it's important to start there because it helps you understand how that video performed and how it might be doing. Now, this is a great question. Dylan says, maybe I missed this, but can you expand on what you mean when you say hooks? No, I absolutely can, and this is a great question. A hook on YouTube is that first 30 seconds in a long form video that grabs attention and keeps people watching into the end. Think of a fish hook. A fish hook grabs a fish, hooks it in, and your job is to reel it in to completion and catch the fish. In terms of a YouTube video, you hook a viewer's interest, you take them along for the story you're trying to tell, and then ideally, they walk away feeling something, learning something, doing something that made them either a better person, had them feel something through the video, and it changes them. And if you do it really well, you get them to watch another video. So all a hook is a visual or audio way to gather attention, to get people to watch your content, and to keep them sat in their seats, or maybe they're watching on their TV, they're watching on their tablet, on their different areas. Wherever they're watching, you're keeping them engaged and you're getting them to watch more than just that solo piece. So I hope that answers the question, because that's pretty much what a hook is. And that was a really great question. I'm very familiar with hooks, but those questions matter. If you have more questions like that, look, that is what we're here to do. You can always ask a question with hashtag questions, just makes it a little easier for me to see. I love that question. Thank you so much for asking it, because a lot of people don't know these things. And if we don't describe them, it can become a problem. And so, we talked about a lot right now, and we talked about things that grow. Let's say you're wondering, okay, Andrew, I'm following you. I'm making a video. How do I know if it's growing a channel? Well, this is important, and I'm glad that we can have this conversation. I'm going to show you some of my YouTube analytics. Now, this was a video I did based a little bit on just the idea at an event. It's my MPB video, and MPB is basically a used camera and selling. You can sell or buy used gear. I'm a huge proponent of buying stuff secondhand because it can help you save money. It can make YouTube more accessible. You don't always have to wait for, different things. But this was a video that I made based on interest I had because I saw them at VidCon and I hadn't heard of the company. And at the time, they didn't have that many reviews. But I do care a lot about the used gear market and making YouTube more accessible. So for me, this video actually did pretty well. And if you look, it does better than my average. And that's just at the typical of this time. My videos now do a little bit better, but it was interesting because this was one I did out of genuine curiosity. I knew that growing, a YouTube channel, you're going to need to be able to buy gear. And so one of the ways I can look at if my packaging is good is here. Now, what we're about to talk about, impressions click-through rate. A keyword is impressions click-through rate and views. Well, this is how well your thumbnail and title did. These two that I'm drawing this purple box around, impression shows that people were looking for it, about 65,000 people. That is more than the Roman Colosseum. 8.4% clicked through. And it led to 11,000 people, a little over 5.5 Broadway shows worth of people watching a video about should you use mpb.com. Now, I had a good experience. I've seen some other people have different experiences, right? But this is just telling me how well my packaging did. If I want to see how well my video did, there's a different area I need to look for that. And it's okay to look at the area here. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and share my screen again, go to engagement. If you look here, this is a longer video. And I worked on this one for a different kind of hook in the beginning. This one, the hook didn't necessarily land, but it says 65% of my viewers are watching around the 30-second mark, which is above typical. Learn more by comparing to other videos. This is a little blurb from YouTube. You may not be able to see it because I might be in the way, so let me switch on here. So yeah, it says 65% of my viewers. Let's go ahead and magnify, bring out the magnifier, make it a little easier to see. So yeah, 65% of my viewers are still watching around the 30-second mark, which is above typical. Learn more by comparing to other videos. So if we do this, we're going to click see more. And what it's going to show me is my audience retention. And this is how we can see how if it's doing well. Now, this is not a bad retention graph. If you're ever like, hey, what's a good retention graph? Hover over here, and you can see when the line on the chart is flat, that's good. Gradual decline means viewers are losing a bit of attention. Spikes appear when more viewers are watching or rewatching, and dips. So this right here can look here, and we can compare to other videos. And if we compare it to other videos, it's actually above average to high, and we keep above average until about here. And I know what happens here. This is when I explained the selling process, and the viewers kind of decided around here is when the video is over. Now, one thing I learned by doing this is I no longer do end cards like this because viewers have decided and checked out. They don't really watch it, and I just keep the video full screen. And what I've learned is, hey, don't let it end with a traditional end card. People see things that are like, all right, thank you for watching, and they leave. So just as you can have audio drop-off points by saying things, visually, the end card for my content ended up causing huge dips because they saw it as, all right, well, he's done with whatever he's going to say, let me leave. So now what I do is I just do it pretty stealthily. If you've watched a live stream, people are like, wow, we ended it so abruptly. That's not accidental, folks. That's on purpose. I've learned. And you got to apply those learnings. That's what I mean by getting 1% better. Now, that video, before I made it, I did do some research on MPB, and I saw there was a lot of interest about it. And I had a unique way I could talk about it. I wanted to sell some gear to afford some new gear. I actually have the follow-up. I've waited a little bit, but I finally bought more gear from them. And look, I had a lot of people tell me, do not buy gear from them. They had bad experiences. I had some people said I bought from them and it was great. I'm finally making the follow-up to that video. But the moral of the story is I learned a lot with that video. That was one of my first videos where I didn't necessarily script and I didn't know how it was going to end. It ended up really well, but it was one of those situations when you're kind of putting it up to the wind, right? So there's that. The next thing I want to show is another video which I experimented with visual hooks, right? You need to know your content. And it's important that you know your content. Because if you don't know it, how are your videos? How can I do that with my videos in terms, look, I mean, dance fitness, people want to feel like they had a good workout. That is a good feeling. They want to feel good when they do an exercise. A lot of people find exercise boring, but dance fitness allows it to be a little more creative and fun. So what I would tell you is look at which classes with a visual hook got people in right away. With you, we also talked about transcripts and how some of the times the audio there, I would tell them, get them hyped by talking about it, get right into the actions, remind them they can do it. Because a lot of the times, like we're talking about today, people just don't believe they could grow on YouTube, but they can. I've seen it time and time again. And you can grow by getting 1% better day after day. So the next video I want to show is a little bit about, this one is a more recent video I did. It's doing really well in search. It gets suggested traffic, and it is about the Elgato Stream Deck Discord edition. Now, this was a unique pick for me because in full disclosure, I'm an Elgato ambassador. They sent me this, but they didn't see the review before it went up. But what I'm saying is that this was a chance for me to take something I like, which are stream decks, Discord, and find a way to make it relevant to a YouTube audience. I can say I did that. Now, if we look, you'll notice my hook style is a little bit different. I'm not the first thing they see. That was on purpose. And so if we scroll down, 64% of my viewers are still watching. I'm averaging now closer to above 60% viewership when it comes to these different ways of doing it. And so 64% of my viewers are still watching around the 30-second mark. Before, I was about 40%, and now I'm about 60 to 65% getting better. And that's how you can get better over time. So if I go to compare to other videos, what I've noticed is I have above average moments, then I have the required sponsor disclosure, and so this is definitely where we lose some people, but we gain them again, and we actually do really well. Now, interesting, this part here, if I want to do another video, I know some visuals that I can improve on for the next video, and this is what I mean. Growth doesn't always mean what people think. If you're watching, YouTube growth doesn't just mean views. It can be these little things like getting your retention better, making better hooks, having videos watched longer, having people watch multiple videos. When it comes to growth on YouTube, what does that mean to you? If it is views, watch time, etc., we can help with that. If it is improving as a creative, if it is improving your retention and watch time and hooks, we can do that too. Packaging, actual videos. These are all different factors that a lot of times people just lump in together. But here's the thing. When it comes to YouTube, there are so many ways you can talk about growth. It could be developing your style in terms of how you film and make videos. My videos have been a lot better since I started, and I'm proud of that fact. I look back and I go, I would do that differently, and that's the sign of growth. But the growth I'm talking about isn't just that, technical or that idea. It is the video over video. That's what they mean when they say get 1% better. I focused on my hooks, visual and audio, and they're doing better. And I'm not perfect. That's something to keep in mind. I'm still learning. So was Michelangelo. So as you can see, 41.4, what I've learned here is we go average, we lose them when I start, what I've learned in my videos, if I just have screen share, I should definitely be there. I should definitely be more present, but you'll notice in this one, this is kind of where they decided the video ended. And so we're below average at the end, but we have above average and we do pretty well compared to others, and this video is growing. A lot of people on this video are satisfied. They've told me that because of this video, they've ordered stream decks, they've ordered and tried out some free software, and that to me is the win. The thing is, then they say not only is it important to watch that video, but it's also important to watch more than just that, right? And when we talk about these things, that's what I mean. Because when you're trying to grow on YouTube, I want you to set a goal. If you're watching right now, live in this replay, what is the thing you're going to improve over time? For me right now, it is visual hooks and video performance, retention. I am really watching that. And what are they walking away feeling after every video? Because those things matter so much. And so whenever I'm making a video or whenever I'm helping people grow their channels, who are you serving? What audience are you trying to build? What are you doing to make that experience better for the viewer? Because the you in YouTube is not only you, but you, the audience. And people ask me, what's the ratio, right? In traditional filmmaking, they'll say 1 for the crowds and 1 for myself. In YouTube, I'd say 2 for the crowds, 1 for myself. Because you're going to make a lot more content than studio directors and studio creatives will. So that's something to keep in mind. I see we're getting some people answering what they're wanting to improve. And Mac Movement says they want to improve average view duration and watch time. That's a great goal. That's something we can talk about. We also have Beanie who said, maybe Andrew also learned the art of not overthinking it because the confidence is more and more noticeable over the years. Hooks, probably. So one thing I will say, and I think it's interesting that comment, people often do not realize I've been on YouTube for a long time, but I was 22 when I got my start. At the height of TubeBuddy, I was only, in 2015 is when, I really started working with TubeBuddy in December. In 2016, I was just pretty much 22. So by the time TubeBuddy sold, I was turning 25, 26. So I was really young in my career. I'm a lot more confident in who I am as a creator now, and it shows in my content. You guys say it shows in my streams. And also, I'm doing this for myself and my community, and nothing is going to hold me back on doing that. And that's another thing when it comes to growing on YouTube. If you actually want to grow on YouTube, you kind of need to be a little bit okay with you're not going to please everyone. One of my favorite quotes that helped me get through that is from Dita Von Teese, and it's the idea that you could be the sweetest peach in the tree. There's always going to be someone who hates peaches. So that means there's nothing you can do. You're the best at what you do, but someone's not going to like it. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, Roberto Blake. He's allergic to strawberries. You could have made the best strawberry ice cream, but he can't enjoy it. It's never going to be for him. Doesn't mean what you did wasn't great, but you can't please everyone. If you want to grow on YouTube, you got to be okay with that. There's going to be someone that doesn't like you, that doesn't agree with what you're doing. I've had haters over the years, and it's okay. If you have your first hater, that means you're doing something right. You don't have to engage with them. You don't have to go deeper. Sometimes people just don't like what you say, and that's okay. I'd rather have someone feel something. Disagreement is a feeling. I don't try to have that feeling all the time, but it's going to come up if you're doing something right. So, I see from Beanie, have y'all liked the stream? Thank you so much, Beanie. I see from Home Rapid Repair, TubeBuddy sold again. I have so much to say, but I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that, folks. Now, I also think that this from Kathy is really one of those things when it comes to growing on YouTube. You won't be for everyone. When you're making content on YouTube, you're not going to be for everyone, and that is okay. I'd rather you make content that, one, you agree with, that you've done research, that is true to you and what you know. Be okay with not always having things right. Be okay with being wrong, but admit it. Growing is a part of the human experience, and with the rise of AI, humanity might be the only thing we all have in common. The best stories are when there's a conflict, a triumph, and a resolution. Your videos could be a smaller scale of that. If you're doing tutorials, if you're teaching people about rocks like Geology Dude, there's the question about what kind of rocks. There's the deeper understanding that it's not just rocks in geology, and then there's understanding and wanting to learn more. That's a real story. There are people who want to learn how to draw dinosaurs, so maybe they discover their love of dinosaurs through one medium. They find Beanie, they feel confident and start drawing through Beanie's help, and then they do their own art. That's a story. Everything is part of the learning experience. Now, Kathy Fitz says being wrong is the hardest part. No, being wrong is not the hardest part. Having too much pride to admit you're wrong, that's the hardest part. And that's a lesson we all got to learn. And I'm not perfect about it either. So I will say that one of the best phrases I've learned is, I'm sorry, I was wrong, you were right. And it's that. That can release a lot of tension. It can release a lot of pain. Because trust me, sometimes holding on hurts more than letting go. Similar to holding on, if you're holding on to old YouTube strategies, and I'm talking about things that were relevant years ago, it's time to take a moment, reflect, ask people, does this still work? Does this still matter? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's changed. And that's okay. Sometimes holding on to old data is still bad. I gave the sponge analogy. Holding that old water, holding that old information can be bad for you. And it's okay. It's okay to say, hey, I'm not sure on this. Go to a community. Look, they can't do creator community biased, but we have a lot of people who are here to genuinely help. There's not a lot of ego. And that's something we work on. We facilitate that culture. So when you're trying to grow, ask those questions. And sometimes the worst thing people can say is no. They can say a lot worse. Make sure that, doesn't happen. People are saying true. I see Nick went off on the TubeBuddy thing. Oh, people have asked me for years to give my opinion. And for years, I stayed quiet. Maybe. Who knows? Time will tell. Hydrate. Now, if you're wanting to know how can you keep people watching, one thing I would tell you is you really need to figure out what enjoys you. when it comes to watching content? What makes you keep watching? Study those things. For me, a lot of the times it could be interesting transitions, right? It could be well thought out design. It could be things that music, it could be audio. Now, it could be things like this, where if you're wondering how you can get your question answered, I have a graphic that I made that I spent a lot of time on and that you can learn more about and ask your question. There are some of the things that you can learn about. All I will say is I have a lot to say. Who knows when I'll say it? Gotta keep them guessing. But also, I also have a very biased opinion. I often tell people, and this has been something I've said my whole career and it's protected me. Use what works best for you. It is so true. If it is not my teachings, do what's best for you and use what's available to you that is best for you. Obviously, I always hope to help people, but that's not going to happen for everyone. And I'm okay with it. If I have helped you, thank you. Thank you for coming back. The people watching live, you guys come back. And that is the biggest thing to me that is a sign of viewer satisfaction. We started in that abstract. Here's something that's satisfying. I have people who've come to every single one of these Thursday streams, and I don't lose sight of that for a second. You're giving me something so valuable, and that is your time. So thank you. And another thing I'll tell you is I'm always improving. I have this conversation a lot. People know, and I've been upfront about it. I don't love my thumbnails, but I love the results they get. And my audience loves them. They're simple. Sometimes I don't think they're the best. Boy, do you click on it. And that's what matters. I care more about that the viewer has a great experience with the actual video than necessarily the packaging. I don't have to love the packaging. I just have to like it enough to get the results that I want, which is people to watch the video and enjoy what they watch. I'm not here to clickbait. I always make sure it's click worthy, not clickbait. There is a thin line there. But the reality of the situation is if people watch and they also appreciate it, that's important. And it's also important that you think of your audience through and through. So we have talked about a lot. You got to research before you create. You got to do a lot of those things. You got to follow that can-do method. And look, I made this. This is something I've done over and over again. This can-do method is on the front page of our website. And it is a real mindset shift. You have to have this. That's it. Knowledge, audience, news, data, optimization. You need to know those things. Watch time, again, we talked about that. One of those things. We talked about how you need to be up to date with newer trends. You need to know that satisfaction is that indicator and it's watch time, but not all watch time is created equal, and there are other signals. Focus on multiple sessions. Focus on if one video causes them to watch another. Do people come back? Consistency. One thing I'll tell you is not only consistency in uploading, but of content type. It is okay to have a separate channel for a different new style of content. Don't shoehorn everything into one channel because it'll lead to heartbreak more than anything. Then, for thumbnails and titles, there's a system. You got to look at how YouTube is serving that. Impressions, click-through rate, the views. Then in the views, how long are they watching? Are they enjoying? That's important. It's all very important. And again, retention is one of those things that I'm aiming to get better. I am so happy to see so many different people tell me they're working on stuff. Geology dude, thank you. I work hard to be someone that people can know is doing his best and is trying his hardest to give good information. I'm not always perfect about it. Things change. And look, I always try to be better. That's the bare minimum I can do, but sometimes my bare minimum is someone's highest expectation. That's okay. If I've met your highest expectation with my bare minimum, that's not a bad place to be. So, wait, so what was your very first? How did it do? Doesn't have to be this channel. A little more context, Kathy. I could give you some more context there. Now, another thing I will say is I want to open this up because I know you have questions. So here's how you get your questions answered. While that's going on, I'm going to drink some water. I also want to remind you that if you want to go deeper, consider joining our Discord community. We have over 2,500 people. We are constantly working on ways to engage. We have so many of you who are there, but I would love to see more of you join. You can also check out a lot of the stuff we have for free. We have a free glossary. We have a free affiliates page. We have an audience visualizer, all available for free to you. So I'd really love to see you over there. You need two forms of hydration: water and strong water. For me, strong water is coffee, because that's a different kind of strength. Now, another thing I do want to also flag is community is everything when it comes to growth. And community and audience, they're not the same thing. People confuse them. Community is the audience that's bought into what you said. The audience you don't know, those new viewers, if we look at the YouTube analytic way, that's really a huge focus. Never lose sight of your community. But also don't lose sight of your audience, because they're not the same thing. Now, I have to say, my community has helped me create something that I actually am proud to, talk about and wear. And people have already, I see we've gotten a few sales. So I just have to say thank you. I do appreciate everyone who's supported this. As I'm looking here, it is really cool to see that, a design idea that I had, people were interested in. And if you look deeper, there's some jokes in there. If you know, you know. I can't fit hats, so I made sure to throw that in. A hat that Andrew can actually wear. So yeah, just things like that. Community is what made that line possible. I love this, and everyone I've shown it has had really positive responses. My members are actually going to be getting some early access. And if you buy some of the merch, you get some membership included, because that came from my co-founder Ike. And those are all the things that really matter. And so, look, at the end of the day, if you're trying to grow your YouTube channel, you got to decide, what does growth mean to you? If you watch this far, if you're just joining, what does YouTube growth mean to you? For me, it is, how do I make sure the experience, the feeling they have per video works, and learning how to get people to watch multiple videos. When you do that well, that's huge, not only for today, but tomorrow and in the future. That's what growth means to me. I'm also constantly learning. I love learning. It's the best part of doing YouTube. I think that that's when I feel the most alive. So that's something that I would say. Now, I see we have a great question from Home Rapid Repair, and it's about a resource channel. Do you think resource channels are slower to grow because people might get their answer and then never come back? Absolutely. That would be called a utility channel. It's not a bad thing, but it can be what people come for you for. I had this experience, and I talked about it with Daniel Kosmala on his Better Days podcast. A long time ago, back before the pandemic, there was a need I had. My garbage disposal under my sink, it broke. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I looked it up. And so, with that, I was able to watch and learn how to fix it. And I fixed it, and I felt so vindicated. But Home Rapid Repair, I'll be honest, Larry, I have not checked out that channel since, even though they helped me so much. And that's okay. But what you do, Larry, and what you could do, is you could get them in on one repair and teach them that there's so much they could do themselves when it comes to repair. I often have people who come to learn one thing. My SEO video does very well. People told me, you finally taught me SEO. It makes sense to me. And I may never see them again. And that's okay. But now I would know how to get them interested in another topic. You can always learn how to get them to the next one. Because you don't only have to hook them once. You got to hook them again to get them to watch more. So as much as we talked about the first hook in the video, what's your hook or call to action at the end to hook them to another piece? That's equally as important. And that's something I'm always thinking of too. That is normal human behavior, nature. Great story. Thank you, Larry. And look, we know people are coming for you. It's just making sure how you do it. Now, we have a question from Dylan Phillips, and this is, have you noticed any effects with YouTube adding quizzes? So I have, but YouTube has had quizzes for a while. Posts. There have been quizzes in posts. Now on video, I haven't seen that much reaction to them. I might try a quiz at the beginning of this live stream replay, and I've tried it in a few places. It's still a new feature. It doesn't mean that they're not effective. It just means they're new. And audience behavior isn't always the best when something's new. And look, we got to have time to test. Shorts when they came out versus where they are today are two different features. And I'm excited for anything YouTube is willing to try. I see they're experimenting with messaging again on YouTube. Good. So Beanie says, answer their question and remind them why they liked your answer, and maybe they'll ask you more questions. Yes. And that's something that in the Q&As we have found. If you ask, good questions, I can do my best to help. And sometimes there are people in the audience who can be just as helpful. So I definitely think that there's a lot we can do and learn from one another when it comes to YouTube. And growth, like I said, it can mean so many different things for so many different people. And just because what makes sense to me doesn't mean it won't make sense to you. Because we've talked about upload systems, right? I want to tell you a system I would tell you if you're trying to grow on YouTube. What can you do to actually grow on YouTube? Focus on a system of videos. It doesn't need to be every single upload, one after the other, but as you're doing one for them and one for you, or two for them and one for you, maybe you make a series. A lot of people are afraid to do series content. So for Larry, right, he could teach you how to do a whole system of how to replace your floors. But Larry might make that all in one video when in reality, it could have been multiple parts. Or he can make them in mind where people might just watch the one, or they could watch all of them. So many times people get confused and only do one over the other. That's okay. Beanie says, that was a metaphor about what people might not come back after they've had their question answered. Fair enough. Look, I've had people tell me the reason they stick around is because I answered their question or I pulled up their channel and it meant something to them. And every time I love looking at YouTube channels. I love doing this. I've done this because I still enjoy it. So yeah. Now Kathy's asking, how can you do a series? Now, Kathy, for you on a dancing channel, oh my gosh, you could do a whole 7-day how to get into dance fitness. Level 1, level 7. Do different. Come back tomorrow for the second one, or click that video on screen. I wouldn't say come back tomorrow. Say watch the second video to do a more advanced. Get them interested. That is how you can get them intrigued and tell them there's more. When I was on my fitness journey, shout out HasFit. They helped me learn fitness and lose weight. The HasFit stands for Heart and Soul Fitness because they believe every heart and soul has a journey and has a belief to be free. So I say that all to say, you could do the same thing, Kathy. You're teaching people dance and fitness. You can have fun while you lose weight. That's the truth. That's your value prop. You can dance and have fun and lose weight and feel better about yourself. And even if you don't lose weight, you're getting stronger. There's different ways. So yeah. I also see from Stanley, don't sleep on the option of responding to a comment with a shorts video. That is so true. That's a win-win triple threat opportunity. Or as a voice reply. I know voice replies are also a newer feature, but I've seen some people use them effectively and it starts conversation going. So you would be surprised how they could do. I see from Home Rapid Repair, the clipping feature on the video page in Studio is amazing. You can cut out any section you want and it considers that a new video rather than altering the original. Correct. And there was a time where audiences could clip, but I think they've kind of gone away with it. I need to do a little more research into it, but I think they could still clip, but I think it was getting a little dicey. I need to look more into how they handled all of that. But also you can use tools like Opus Clip, shout out channel sponsor, but you don't have to just do everything on YouTube. Sometimes you can learn things from other platforms and bring it there. But I'll tell you, any event I go to, Adobe Max, Kidscreen, Vid Summit, VidCon, any creator who isn't a creator on YouTube first, their end goal is to be on YouTube. And I got to tell you, as someone who teaches YouTube and loves it and loves content creation and filmmaking and all of it, it's very rewarding to see people wanting to be on the platform I decided to make my home. If you're watching this, YouTube's your home. You have every right to tell your story and you have every right to grow on YouTube in the ways that you want and see fit. And with